All right, welcome back into the Yappin' Football Podcast. As always, Dylan Mehl, joined by my guy Javon from Stats Over Feelings. Week 6 of the NFL is in the books. We are coming to you here on a Tuesday, so hopefully you didn't miss us too much yesterday. But work calls, and until you guys make sure that this pays the bills, that's the way it's going to be a couple weeks.
Got to, man.
But that being said, we do get to talk Monday Night Football, and we had a pretty interesting game going into Monday Night Football. So I think this was a good week to even have the pod drop on a Tuesday because the Buffalo Bills defeated the New York Jets 23-20 in MetLife. The Bills moved to 4-2. The Jets moved to 2-4, and Buffalo's got a pretty, sizable hold on that AFC East division now, I would say. But of course, the more interesting story is the New York Jets. Do you think their season is cooked? Is it over after just 6 weeks?
No, I don't think their season is over yet.
That's going to be the take on sports media shows, though.
Yeah, I mean, dude, we're in week 6. They're 2-4. Their division is not amazing.
Yeah.
Like they really are only competing with basically one team, bro. So I mean, it's possible they're just gonna have to go on a crazy hot streak to end the season. And their offense in the first half looked amazing in the first half. I don't know what to say. They just got locked down in the second half, but if they can keep up what they did in the first half, there's actual bright spots now that they can look to. They were running play action on first down. They haven't run play action on first down all year.
Brees had his best game of the year by far.
Yeah, and Garrett Wilson was getting the ball out and getting the ball quickly so he can make moves in space. Man, their play call in this game was amazing to me. It looks at least in the first half it was.
The one issue with the offense was the red zone offense. They just can't convert down there. Yeah. 1 for 4. And, I think that this is where, hey, this offense needs another weapon really starts to show. Because you get down in the red zone and it's a lot easier to have 2 guys on Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
Where it's not taking away from coverage elsewhere. And Lazard caught the Hail Mary, and he's a fine 3. Mike Williams is a little washed, if we're being honest. Tyler Conklin, not that great. So not that I'm saying that it has to be Davante Adams. I think it's going to be Davante Adams. Yeah. But the Jets are another really solid weapon on offense away from being a legit offense, especially now with the change of play caller. Like you said, is the new guy that's calling plays perfect? No, but is he better than Nat Hackett? Absolutely. The offense looked completely rejuvenated. It looked like the second best offensive performance I've seen from the Jets this year behind that Patriots game, and this was in a loss. So,
yeah,
they looked legit, and the defense we know is a strong unit.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's going to be a lot of people tomorrow who say they need to finish in the red zone, but that's been the trend with a lot of teams this year. The Chiefs are not good in the red zone. The 49ers are not good in the red zone this year at all without CMC. So it's not like they're like the only team, the only good team that's having this problem. But honestly, I think tomorrow on most talk shows, they're going to talk about how if you take away the Hail Mary, they really only had 13 points, which, I mean, it kind of is true.
Well, so their kicker missed 2 field goals.
Yeah.
Brees Hall got pushed out of bounds at the 3-yard line about 2 times in this game.
That was a crazy going Taylor Rapp.
I don't want to just say it was fluky shit because it's the Jets and it's not fluky. They just don't convert pretty often. But in this individual vacuum game, you could look at it and go, they left a lot of points on the board. 1 for 4 in red zone trips, missing 2 field goals. There were certainly points to be had, and being in a division with the Patriots and with the Dolphins, who knows the quarterback situation, are the Jets completely out of it? No, I don't think so, but they don't exactly have the easiest schedule either. So they're going to have to start beating some of these good teams, and we just haven't seen that this year.
I mean, they got Pittsburgh on Sunday night. This upcoming Sunday, they got Pittsburgh Sunday night game. Kind of a short week, but I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been getting harassed the past 3 games, man. And I think Alex Highsmith has been out the last game or 2. He's going to be back, I'm pretty sure. So the Steelers are basically going to have their entire pass rush.
It's going to be an ugly game.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Because that's Jets defense versus Justin Fields, too. Going to be an ugly, ugly game.
Dude,
Um,
Tyron Smith has been getting cooked too. So that's a whole other story in itself. Man,
yeah.
he's underwhelming to say the least this year too.
But so we both agree that the Jets aren't done. 2-4
No.
with a good defense and some weapons on offense. Eh, are they in a better spot, do you think, than Cincinnati?
Yeah, because they're not in the AFC North. There's already two other teams that are 4-2. I mean, they're still in second place. Wait, yeah, they are. They are in second place, right?
No,
I'm
I
pretty
think
sure.
they're in third because Miami had a bye. So Miami's
Oh,
2-3. So
technically
Miami's ahead of them.
by win percentage, I guess, right?
Yeah, by
But
half a
yeah,
game.
yeah, they'll be okay. But if they fall to 2-5 with the loss to Pittsburgh this week, it might be time to chalk it up, man. Because Pittsburgh will be 5-2. You got Baltimore. There's so many teams that are going to be better than them by at least 3 games. I don't think they can overcome that. So we'll see.
No,
This week is must win for them for sure. I can say that for the
absolutely. For Buffalo, did this win tell you anything about the Bills? They had just come off of losing 2 games to 2 teams that we actually recognize as being pretty good in Baltimore and Houston. After starting the year 3-0 against some lackluster competition, they get this win on the road versus the Jets with a banged-up Khalil Shakur, no James Cook.
Yeah.
Did you feel anything about this win for Buffalo, or did it kind of just feel like business as usual?
I mean, they definitely took care of business, but I don't think nobody expected them to win in the fashion that they did, man. When they announced James Cook wasn't going to be playing today, I'm pretty sure everybody was thinking, okay, Josh Allen is going to have to do his thing on the ground this game. But no, Ray Davis stepped up, and he had the game of his life, or the best game of his career, at least, for sure. And with that defense, I mean, to basically get dogged in the first half and then to come out in the second half and basically shut them out for the most part, that was impressive too. So they proved that they can win, and not the ways that we expected them to be winning in this game for sure.
I mean, the defensive adjustments were there for both teams. Only 6 total points scored in the second half. I think the big thing for Buffalo, and ESPN showed the graphic, with a win tonight, they now have an 85% chance to win the division. You went on the road, pushed the Jets down to 2-4. You're 4-2. Miami's got their quarterback situation. New England's not a real contender. Buffalo looks like they're headed towards, what is this, their 5th or 6th straight AFC East title at this point. They'll be back in the playoffs. I just still question if they can compete with Baltimore, Houston, and Kansas City. And I feel like they're a team that should be in the market for Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams, Tyler Lockett. If I'm really supposed to buy into this team, it being their year, especially Amari Cooper, he's the vet's minimum against the salary cap.
Yeah, man. I mean, they're really short over there in receiver, dog. I don't know how they keep winning with basically no receiver. Keon Coleman and Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid is doing the job for now. But when you play the Ravens again, like, how is that going to go? When you play Trent McDuffie in the Chiefs defense, how is that going to go? So, I mean, I can't blame them if they really don't make a move because they're winning. But it's like everybody around them, we're looking at the roster.
So I don't think that they need to upend things, and I don't think they need to make a splash move to go get a Devontae Adams. But Amari Cooper on the last year of his deal to a 1-5 now Browns team, what is that going to be, a 4th-round pick? I mean,
Cortland Sutton in Denver, or like Tyler Lockett, you think he's going to be moved soon too?
I just don't think that Lockett or Cooper will cost anything more than a 4th-round pick. And I think if you're Buffalo and you believe that you could win it this year, there's no reason to not send that offer. That's just the way that I view it. Speaking of teams that need help, the Detroit Lions defeat the Dallas Cowboys 47-9 in Jerry World on Jerry Jones's birthday. The Dallas Cowboys are now 0-3 at home this season, and it is not been happy sailing for them. They're 3-3 overall, but you talk about a team imposing their will and proving that there is a clear 2 to 3 tier gap. The Detroit Lions did that to the Dallas Cowboys. I ask you this, did this win tell you more about Detroit or Dallas?
I mean, Detroit for sure, man. I think they might be the best team in the NFC right now, dude. Like, they went a whole game without the ball touching the ground on offense, legit. 18-18, and they was dominating the run game, just 2 weeks ago, and now this just happened, and the Cowboys were supposed to be playoff contenders. We don't even know if that's going to happen this year, and they just did whatever they want. Had offensive linemen lined up, for
they
flea
tried
flickers, triple
four
options.
times to get an O-lineman a touchdown.
Yeah,
super disrespectful.
Football.
Yeah, it was bad, and this is, not to toot our own horns, but this is why we picked Detroit to come out the NFC to contend in the Super Bowl, because we thought they were capable of this level football. The ground attack with Montgomery and Gibbs is just dominant. And against the Dallas Cowboys team with DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons out, they're on second and third string defensive linemen. They stood absolutely zero chance against this Lions offensive line in their run game. And they bullied them. And it set up the play action in the pass for Jared Goff. Amon-Ra 8, Sam Laporta had the long 50-yard touchdown on the reverse trick play. Yeah. Jamison Williams absolutely cooked Trayvon Diggs on a route. It was just straight domination from Detroit in this game. And like you said, it's hard to say that they're not playing the best football in the NFC outside of the Minnesota Vikings, who those two teams now square off this upcoming week.
Oh, yeah.
So that is, becoming a must-watch, must-see football game before our very eyes. But Detroit may have just had the best performance any team has had this season against Dallas. Top to bottom, Detroit's got grit. For me, this game told me more about Dallas, though.
Oh, really?
And it's that they won't be in the playoffs this year. Because we've talked about this a little bit at length. And if there's going to be 3 NFC North teams, which the Vikings, Packers, and Lions all project to get there, and the Bears might even get there. We're going to talk about them in a second. But if there's 3 teams out of the NFC North, you're going to have 1 in the NFC West. That's 4. You're going to have 1 in the NFC South. That's 5. That's 2 open spots left. Washington and Philly. You have Chicago. You have potentially Seattle still. Oh, one of Atlanta or Tampa.
Atlanta's like 3rd in the NFC right now.
So Atlanta or Tampa, but I think both of them might make it.
Yeah.
Whichever way you spin it, Dallas isn't just the odd man out. They're like 3rd in line to get into the playoff club.
Yeah, they're not even – I don't even think record-wise they'll be able to keep up with the other teams, dude.
Especially playing a first-place schedule.
Yeah, man. I turned the game off at halftime, and every time I checked the game, the Lions score went up. And I would check it every 5 minutes. Yeah. But for the Lions, dude, maybe going into the game against the Cowboys, they could have been the best team in the NFC. But I want to see how that pass rush looks without Aiden Hutchinson now. He's definitely out for the year. His leg snapped in half. So,
that was a brutal injury. And, obviously we wish Hutch the best, but that was bad. That hurt to see.
Just thinking.
You talk about a team that should be in the market for a pass rusher. Detroit's at the top of the list now. You could probably get them to pay a premium. Reports came out today that a deal is expected to get done between Reddick and the Jets now because Reddick switched his agency.
We'll see.
We'll see. Maybe the Lions kind of swoop in there at the last minute. The Raiders told Schefter they're not trading Max Crosby no matter what. So, I don't blame them, but there goes that pipe dream.
Didn't you have him as the defensive player of the year, or was that Max Crosby?
I did have Max Crosby as the defensive player of the year.
Okay. A lot of people had Hutchinson. That's what I was talking about. A lot of people I saw had Hutchinson this year.
Yeah, and Hutch was playing great football. The pass rush wasn't great for Detroit after he left. They still got some interior pressure with, DJ Reader, but they need an edge rusher, and they need one in the worst way if they're going to compete, especially against some of the really good offenses and quarterback play in the NFC.
Yes.
For Dallas, I want to ask you, because I saw this idea floating around Twitter today. If you were the Cowboys, would you trade Micah Parsons for a haul? Because alternatively, it's you pay him, and then your roster gets even worse. Or you could trade him right now for multiple picks, including a first rounder.
Dude, they're screwed either way. But okay, even if let's say you trade Micah Parsons, what position are you looking for in return? Or
I think you would just take draft capital.
So I mean, he's at least worth like a first and a third, right? Maybe 2 firsts. Like I
think
don't even know what that package will look like.
I think it depends on the team. You would definitely get at least 1 first. My guess is you're looking at something like a first, a second, and a third for Parsons and a fourth, something like that.
Then you had to find a team with the money. You know, that's a whole different story.
Well, for sure, there's a lot of intangibles there. Some people were talking about Detroit, the team that they just played, because they desperately need an edge rusher at this point in time.
They are really young.
So there's definitely teams out there. I mean, there's plenty of teams that will make it work to bring in a guy like Micah because the contract doesn't kick in this year. So, you figure that out after the fact. It's one of those, let's go get the star player and we'll clear out the money at a later date.
You think you think it's possible he gets traded this year? You think that's on the table?
I don't think it actually happens, but I don't think it would be stupid for Dallas to do.
Dude, that would we'll be talking about that for months. Like
I'll just say this. Trade. If you pay him, you essentially have to have an 85% hit rate in the draft, and they're nowhere close to that. When's the last time they drafted a player that wasn't a top, consensus pick that has actually panned out?
These have to be plug and plays. Yeah. Oh,
I mean, CD was at that kind of like the one around the 20th pick.
Yeah.
So you can maybe give that credit, but like Micah was easy.
Diggs was a hit. You can say he was all pro.
Yeah, I suppose. My point being though, they're not exactly known as these draft gurus. So
yeah.
Even if you get the capital though, if that's how you feel about your drafting, maybe it doesn't even matter.
And think about it, with the average draft pick, a hit means they become a rotation or better. These have to be like day one starters almost if you resign this guy.
And I just questioned Dallas's draft strategy from this past year. You knew it was just Dak and CD on that offense. Jonathan Brooks fell to you multiple times, skipped over him. The rookie wide receivers, you skipped over all of them multiple times. And it's just you didn't draft a single skill position guy. And the offense is showing. Dallas continues to go down early in these games, and it's because they can't move the ball when the defense is trying.
Did they even have 50 rush yards? Did they even crack 200 passing yards? Like, once you cut off CD, and it makes me wonder how the Steelers even lost to them last week. It makes me think.
I think that was just like offense ineptitude from Pittsburgh in that game.
Yeah, like if we score 20, like if we could just score one more possession, we win that game. But it's just crazy. I'm still having nightmares about it. But yeah, the Cowboys have a lot of work to do, bro, to say the least.
For sure. Two teams that don't exactly have a lot of work to do, the Baltimore Ravens and the Washington Commanders. Baltimore gets the 30-23 victory at home over the Commanders. Both teams now 4-2. Baltimore is on a 4-game win streak. I thought this game went about how I thought it would go. I thought that these two teams were similar, but I thought Baltimore is the better version of Washington. No Brian Robinson for the Commanders, so the run game took a hit in this game. But ultimately, this is about how I thought it would go. And I want to pose the question to you that I didn't really answer in my solo video today, but it's one that I'm kind of debating in my head. Is Baltimore the best team in the NFL right now? Because they have the number one offense in a yards per game basis. They have the number one rushing attack in a yards per game basis. The defense is finally starting to come around. They held this Buffalo team to 10 points. The Commanders, they held to 16 for most of the way. They gave up a late touchdown, but that's because they were kind of playing back and just making sure the game, they didn't give up the big play. But the defense is coming around. Lamar Jackson, for my money, if the season ended today, is the MVP of the league. Derrick Henry, certainly, I think, would be the offensive player of the league. 9 touchdowns through 6 weeks. And the passing game, I think Lamar's looked the best as a passer he has in his career. And I'm starting to be like, oh, the Ravens are kind of back, huh?
Man, I don't know how to feel about them, bro. In the NFL, I mean, my only competition for them would be the Lions. So
the Lions, you could argue Minnesota. The Chiefs are 5-0.
Minnesota is not the best team in the NFL. They're really good. They're not the best team. I'm not really to crown them that because, man, Lamar is the MVP of the NFL right now.
Yeah, that's my separator, right? All these other teams that we're going to talk about, because I don't think the Chiefs are really in the conversation right now, despite being 5-0. They just haven't played the best football. Now, it's not to count the Chiefs out come January and February because we know what they are then. But in terms of the best team through 6 weeks, and it's like you said, it's the Lions, it's the Vikings, but it's look at the quarterbacks: Lamar, Jared Goff, and Sam Darnold. Which guy are you taking? I mean, it's not even a question.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. I mean, man, if the Ravens and the Lions played each other, I would take the Ravens. So I think I'm gonna have to go with the Ravens. But man, like I really wanted to see the Commanders at full strength for this game, though. Like, I feel like they really were able to get to their identity this game because Austin Eckler has never been a 20 carry a game guy. He did play good this week. I mean, he wasn't the best on the ground, but he does what Austin Eckler does. You know,
he did his job well. It just he wasn't. He doesn't have the ability to do Brian Robinson's job well. That's why they have Brian Robinson.
And I really wish he would have played today, man. I mean, played yesterday, man. But honestly, I think the Commanders, watching them yesterday, I think they're capable of beating the Ravens on any given Sunday type basis. Like they was able to hang Jaden Daniels, man. He made a lot of veteran throws, man. His IQ is a lot higher than I thought, honestly. If you watch him, he was making some crazy decisions with the ball.
I want to ask you, because I think I might be a little biased here. Do you think Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the NFC East, competing with Jalen, Dak, and Daniel Jones?
Yes, right now. Oh yeah, I mean,
through 6 weeks, he's obviously been the best. But if I just stopped with what you've seen and said, pick one, so carry you.
Yeah, I would go with Daniels, man. Okay. Like I said, when it comes to this year, I can only go off of what I see, man, because all the playoff pedigree, I feel like that shit is out the window now, man. None of the quarterbacks with the so-called playoff wins and experiences are really hooping this year. I mean, this is a team year. Who has the best team? It doesn't even matter about the quarterbacking anymore.
I think it's a huge rushing attack year.
I mean, facts. I mean, the best quarterback in the NFL has 6 interceptions in 5 games, or 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions in 5 games. I think
running the ball has really been huge to open the year. I mean, look at the teams we're talking about here as being the best: Baltimore, Detroit, Minnesota. They're not super run heavy, but they're a very balanced team.
Yeah.
Green Bay, Josh Jacobs is the 3rd leading rusher in the NFL. The Commanders have a top 5 rushing attack. Like the teams that are playing the best are the teams that are running the ball the best this year. Yeah. And I think it goes back to something we talked about weeks ago about paying Brandon Ayuk $30 million is cool, but the Baltimore Ravens got Derrick Henry for less than it was like $8 million a year,
dude, and he's paid dividends.
But and the Eagles got Saquon at the high end for $13 million a year.
Yeah,
that was an overpay in people's minds for a running back.
Dude, I'll take it one step further. You see what Joe Mixon meant to the Texans in 1 week and coming back. That offense looked amazing. 40. Exactly, that offense looked amazing. So
that was without Nico Collins. They put up 40.
Yeah, Stephon Diggs stepped up big time. So, yeah, I mean, dude, this year, man, that's why it's not crazy to say I would take Jaden Daniels over Jalen Hurts right now. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say, man.
I don't think it's a crazy take. I don't know if I could pull the trigger on that take, but I think that might just be a little bit of my Eagles fandom living inside of me.
I mean, it is, of course, a this year thing. You know, who's playing better? Like, I mean, it's kind of night and day.
If there was an MVP vote, sure, I would cast the vote for Daniels over Hurts. But if you said rest of season, one of these guys has to lead your team, I just don't know if I'm ready to sell the stock on Hurts for Daniels yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's understandable. That's understandable for sure.
Like, I don't know. We'll talk about the Eagles in a little bit, but Jaden Daniels, like you said, very impressive. I thought even in a loss, he looked good, kept his composure, still making good throws. The connection with Terry McLaurin is really starting to develop. This defense in Washington, it's okay. It's tough to judge because the Ravens have just been moving the ball on everybody. So it's like, you know, do you hold that against the Commanders' defense that they weren't able to stop the best offense in the NFL? I don't know. Derrick Henry, he's been just perfect for Baltimore. He's
Yeah.
averaging over 100 yards per game and 1.5 touchdowns. The guy is just back in his prime. He is having a resurgence elite year, and I love everything that Baltimore is doing right now. Washington has a really bright future. I'm still not fully bought into them being real contenders this year, and I don't know if that's NFC East bias, if that's me being a little bit just behind the curve on this team and waiting it out. But when I look at their roster still on paper, I'm just not super impressed. And I feel like I'm not crazy for saying this, but in a playoff game today versus the Lions, versus the Packers, versus the Vikings, versus the 49ers, I'm not taking Washington. Versus the Buccaneers, I don't think I'm taking Washington.
Really?
I mean, the Buccaneers dog walked him week 1. I get it was week 1 and Jaden's had a lot of time to grow since then, but I watched that Washington defense get rocked by Tampa's offense. So I just think that this is a one and done playoff team at this point in time. I think it'd be good experience. I think it's overachieving. I think their line was set at like 5.5 wins to open the season. So no matter what, this is a successful year. But even in terms of the odds to win the NFC East, I still think Vegas is favoring Philly because of just the talent discrepancy on the roster. So we'll see. But, I don't mean to come across as some Eagles hater on Jaden Daniels by any means. Like, I think the kid can play. I think he's an absolute stud, and I think he's the rookie of the year. I'm just not bought into this resulting in playoff success.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they won a playoff game, but, it's his rookie year, man. They still got a lot of pieces to fill out in that secondary also. That's really their weak link. The linebackers with Wagner and Luvu, I think they get another pass rusher in there. I think they could be really good next year. But,
yeah, I think this is holy crap, we're ahead of schedule. Let's see how far we could run this. And it reminds me of the Texans last year. Holy crap, we're ahead of schedule. Let's see where we can go with this.
I feel like the Packers too. They just came out of nowhere.
Then when you know that, it's important in that offseason to capitalize and build out a really good roster while Jaden's still on that rookie deal.
Yeah.
Speaking of rookies, Jaden's counterpart, Caleb Williams, and the Bears defeat the Jaguars. I'm not tolerating Trevor Lawrence slander. The Jaguars dropped 4 touchdown passes in this game. They just get into him no favors. And I'm not here
2 years in a row now.
And Trevor's not the guy by any means. Trevor's not a top 10 quarterback. Trevor's probably not even top 15. But Trevor's not the problem here in Jacksonville. Yeah. I'll say that. But I want to talk about the Bears because 4-2, they are 3rd in the NFL in terms of the turnover battle. They're +6. They are 4th in the NFL in point differential, +41. The only other 3 teams that are ahead of them, by the way, are the other 3 NFC North teams. So talk about one hell of a division. And Caleb Williams has started to figure it out. You've seen this over the last month. He's playing really good football. He looks like he's figuring out the NFL. He's running at the right time. He's making the right throws. Connections developing with DJ Moore, Cole Kmet. We even saw Keenan Allen get 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift is starting to figure it out. And the Bears, the rest of the way, they have the 5th easiest schedule. I don't think it's odd to say the Bears might be a playoff team. The NFC North this year might be the first division ever to have all 4 teams get there.
Yeah.
But the Bears' pathway, it's pretty easy to see. Caleb keeps getting a little bit better. They win the games that they're supposed to, and they are just competitive in their division.
Yeah, I mean, it was at one point in the first 3 games or so, he was the weak link. Now look at him, man. I mean, this offense is constructed perfectly, dude. Like DeAndre Swift he's balling. I mean, honestly, I thought their season was going to depend on him because I thought Caleb was just going to start out on such a high note that the only question would be, would you have to force Caleb to throw the ball too many times? But they don't have to do that now that DeAndre Swift's out there balling. Like they have Keenan Allen is not a fast receiver, man. So they have him on everything intermediate, man. They have the deep threat in Rome Odunze, the jump ball guy, and they have the short routes. They have DJ Moore, man. He's the number 1 receiver. So I mean, Cole Kmet is their safety blanket as well.
DJ Moore could do it all.
Yeah, he can do it all. But like that connection with Cole Kmet is way better than everyone expected also.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't – the victory lap here it's a tough thing to victory lap predicting that the guy who was the number one prospect for 2 years is good. But people were, jumping ship on this guy so quickly because
he looked bad, though.
But I think the reason people were jumping ship on him so quickly is because of how good Jaden was right away.
Yeah.
And I think its context is important. Caleb's younger than Jaden. Jaden was in the SEC. Jaden was in a really good program at LSU. Jaden got to play alongside Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, who were first-round picks and are good players. Caleb was at USC. Can you even name another USC player that Caleb played with that's in the NFL now? Brendan Rice, who doesn't even play Addison for the Chargers? He had Addison for a year 3 years ago.
Yeah. He was at Oklahoma too, but that was, Rattler's team apparently.
My point being, Jaden was more pro-ready than Caleb. And I don't think that that's a hot take to say. It's going to take Caleb a little bit longer to figure it out. And I still think Jaden looks like the better player right now. But Caleb looks damn good. Caleb looks better than Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence has been in the NFL for years. And Trevor Lawrence was the number one overall pick.
Yeah. I almost forgot that shit. I ain't going to lie to you, man. I almost forgot he's the number one pick. That's crazy.
Caleb Williams figuring it out, getting better with those weapons, because Caleb's got one of the best weapon scores for a rookie quarterback. And since J.J. McCarthy's not playing, I'd say the best weapon score.
Yeah.
With DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet, Rome Odunze, who was a top 10 pick, DeAndre Swift, Roschon Johnson. And that defense is no slouch either. They're, I believe, top 5 in the NFL in sacks. They take the ball away at a high clip. They're third in the NFL in turnovers forced. They really won them that game versus Tennessee with the kick return, punt return, and the pick six. And the Bears are legit. And I think they're going to go a little bit under the radar. They're on a bye week this upcoming week. But I think there's a real shot at week 10. We look up and we're like, oh, shit, the Bears are 6-3. How did this happen?
I don't think anyone should be surprised at all, man. First of all, Bears versus Jaguars. The Jaguars are a hot mess right now. It's not much to talk about there, regardless.
A London game, though. The Jags have a lot of experience there. The Bears, not so much. So it could have gone south. And again, the Bears, because I mentioned the point differential for them, and I saw a bunch of people tweeting, well, the Bears, all their wins are against one-win teams. Fine. So be it. They're dominating them. That's why they have the 4th best run differential in the NFL. That's what a good team would do to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They would dominate them. They look as good, if not better, than the Buffalo Bills did against Jacksonville.
Yeah, that is true. And at the end of the day, you gave a so-called generational quarterback, a top 5 defense, and one of the best offenses in the NFL. So, what can you expect? It should be no less than 10, 11 wins from Caleb Williams. All he has to do is not ruin the games for them. He has a top 5 defense, man. Mm-hmm. So, and who knew that Roschon Johnson and DeAndre Swift would be this good also? So they can play some amazing complementary football as long as he doesn't mess it up. So I think they're going to be fine.
Do you think that by the time this video is out, because we're recording this Monday night, and it'll be out Tuesday afternoon, prediction – is Doug Peterson still the Jaguars head coach?
I think at this point, yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if he ends the season there, bro. Just because they were just
they're so bad that what's the point?
Yeah, exactly.
Might as well let it ride out. I hear you there. The Jags are a mess. The defense is pretty bad. And the offense, I just don't love the play calling, man. We went from watching Travis Etienne look like he was pretty promising to getting played off the field.
Trash.
Receivers are dropping balls. It's just a hot mess there. Speaking of hot messes, the Philadelphia Eagles defeat the Cleveland Browns in interesting fashion, 20-16. I went on a whole rant on this Eagles channel that I run about Sirianni and his post-game antics, and lo and behold, today I find out a little bit more context behind it. It wasn't as bad as I thought. I still don't love chirping with the fans regardless during a game from a head coach. You would never see Andy Reid or Bill Belichick having any conversation with the fans during the game.
Yeah.
But apparently this wasn't, like a middle finger to the fans. This was just more of him being like hype and having like a fun conversation with the fans. Again, I still don't really love it. You beat the Browns by 4 points, who might be the worst team in the NFL. But that being said, the game was closer than it should have been because of a blocked field goal. The game really should have been 23-9. The defense doesn't give up a single offensive touchdown all day. You love to see that. A.J. Brown returns, has a 100-yard game, a touchdown. Devonta Smith had a long touchdown. Saquon Barkley was a little off, but I thought despite the score being close, it felt like Philly had control of this game all the way through. NFL games are going to be close sometimes because we talk about the talent discrepancy. Would I have loved for Philly to win by 2 scores? Yes, I came up here and said that they should. They would have had it not been for that blocked field goal. So as an Eagles fan, I wouldn't say I'm happy. I wouldn't say I'm upset. I'd say they did their job.
I mean, you didn't have that much to worry about when you got Deshaun Watson on the other side of the field. He's the worst quarterback in the NFL right now, and that's saying a lot.
The Cowboys got to play him. The Giants got to play him. It was only we deserved the Commanders got to play him. Everybody else in the NFC East got to play Deshaun Watson. We deserved our turn.
I mean, 100%. But I mean, and the Browns defense is not ass. So it shouldn't be that surprising that the score was a little bit closer than you expect because their defense is still pretty decent, even though they got kind of torched on some possessions. But they were just on the field so much.
So the Eagles have some problems, and I'm not oblivious to them. They're the only team in the NFL to not score in the first quarter. We are 6 weeks into the season. You have offensive talent like Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, and I get it. They all haven't played every single game, but there's no excuse to not at least have 3 points on the board in a first quarter of a freaking game at this point in the season. We're a month and a half in. The fall weather is here. The leaves are changing color. It's almost Halloween. Like, you guys got to score in the first quarter at some point. As well, this goes hand in hand with that. They don't script opening games well. And I don't know if it's Kellen Moore. I don't know if it's Nick Sirianni because, say what you want. Nick Sirianni's fingerprints are still on this offense. You could tell there's not a ton of pre-snap motion. There's still a lot of streak routes and outside stuff, not a ton over the middle. But I can't tell you how much I just yelled at my TV. Run a drag route with Devonta Smith or A.J. Brown. If you want to get
them the ball.
Get them in sync. Get them going. Get them touches early on. And I yelled it. And I finally saw a drag route to Devonta Smith to get him a touch. And he took it 45 yards to the house. And I'm like, wow, what a concept. Get one of your elite level weapons, the ball, in space, and just let him get the yak. And hopefully that woke something up for the Eagles. But it's like, this is why the offense isn't moving the ball early. Nobody is in rhythm because their plays to open this game were a handoff to Saquon Barkley, which I'm not against, but it was a toss. And then they ran 2 streak routes to A.J. Brown. And then they had a 3-and-out. And it's like, what are you doing?
I mean, you've seen the difference. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Jets tonight, man. You see what happens when they get the ball to Garrett Wilson. Quick RPO action. Just get him the ball and let him go. I mean, the Eagles have all the weapons they have one of the best receiver corps in the NFL. They have one of the top 5 running backs in the NFL. Just get them the ball and let them rock out, man. So
and that's why when people ask me like, oh, why do you still think the Eagles are a playoff team? Why do you still think they'll win the NFC East? It's like they have the talent. Their problems aren't a talent deficiency. A team like the Jaguars, they're not turning it around. The team stinks. A team like Dallas, they just don't have enough players. The Jets tonight, they don't have enough weapons offensively to convert consistently in the red zone. The Eagles have everything that you would want on a team. And their problems are really just mechanical. They just have to make the adjustments. Whether they'll do it or not, I don't know. They didn't do it at all to end last year. And this year, I'm not saying that they would have beaten Tampa, but it felt like they lost before they even showed up to that game without A.J. Brown, without Lane Johnson, without Devonta Smith. they lose the really weird game to Atlanta that they played well all game and then gave up the last second touchdown. So it's not a bad football team, but it's nowhere close to any of the NFC North teams right now. I'll say that.
I mean, yeah, you definitely could say that. And I thought they would utilize Saquon a little bit more in the passing game, and it's kind of surprising to me.
Did you see I mean, again, I love Saquon. He had this, it was like 2nd and 2, and he's wide open in the flat, but he's focused on conserving the clock. So he just runs out of bounds before picking up the first down. And I'm telling you, he had like 8 yards to pick up the first down. And the Eagles had 3 timeouts. I don't know what he was doing. And then they ended up having to punt the ball because they didn't convert on 3rd down. And that was just a disaster. Or no, that's when they kicked the field goal that was blocked.
They're going to go over that in film for sure.
And again, it's Saquon Barkley. So how much are you really going to nitpick? But my point being, they're just mechanically not put together. They looked like a team who has only played 1 game together fully as a full offense. That's what they looked like.
Yeah, I mean, and one more thing, I want to know how you feel about Sirianni talking to the fans again, because does that kind of show you that all the chatter is kind of getting to him? Like, even when coaches are on the hot seat, you still never see them engage with the fans. You know, like, is it getting to him?
I don't like it. I don't like it as a fan. Apparently, him and Jalen Hurts had a meeting, and I guess Jalen had talked to the players. And the sentiment that I heard from what was around that meeting was the players wanted Sirianni to kind of get more of that asshole in him going. And they wanted him to be what he was in 2022 on the sidelines, like a cheerleader head coach, a guy who was like a part of the team. They liked that personality. They liked that fire. That's kind of part of that fire. You know, if that's what you want, you kind of got to deal with the things that are make him look like an idiot too.
Hey man,
again, I don't want any of it, but if it gets buy-in from the locker room, then I guess.
You do what you got to do, man.
The Browns sticking with Deshaun Watson, man. That's got to be an ownership decision.
Yeah,
they're just destined for failure, huh?
I don't even got nothing to say about them, dude. They're horrible.
Yeah,
like I feel so bad for everyone, and they have weapons. Like what? They still got Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper.
Amari Cooper is going to be on a new team soon.
Yeah,
I mean they'd be smart to move him.
He's going to be happy.
He ain't going back to Cleveland. He ain't re-signing there.
You know he's going to be happy too.
Oh, for sure. Let's close it out talking about your team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They pick up the win over the Las Vegas Raiders. This was a pretty dominant win from Pittsburgh in this game, 32-13. They kind of went out there and owned it. Justin Fields, I think after 2 losses in a row, kind of felt Russell Wilson breathing down his neck just a tad. He went out there and had a really good game. Some Steelers fans on my timeline were saying Najee Harris had his best game ever as a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Not ever, but it was good. It was definitely amazing.
What were your thoughts on the win? Because they were pretty dominant throughout.
Dude, I mean, the first half I was kind of rattled because the first drive of the game, they drove downfield with Amir White and Amir Abdullah, and like it was no resistance. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like they're missing basically 3 out of their 5 best players right now. They had their backup quarterback, their 2 top receivers basically out, and they didn't have their starting running back then the run game is horrible. But honestly, man, there's no way you can watch TJ Watt and not think he's a top 5 player. Like every single game. It's been for years now.
It should be Defensive Player of the Year.
Dude, he should have 3-peated. Every single game for the past 3 years, he makes like 3 plays a game that literally shift the whole game. And when he had 2 punch fumbles in the game. I've never seen one player punch the ball out twice in the same game. Like
TJ Watt is something special.
Dude, he's not going to get a sack, but he didn't get no sacks last game, but he had like 3 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles. It was just crazy. And then I don't think we would be 4-2 right now if we had Russell Wilson starting because, dude, 3rd and 15, he's taking off Fields.
This is kind of what we talked about last week with Pittsburgh, and my thought was they're going to be a playoff team because a lot of their games are going to be ugly, because that's how they play football. And since they're going to be so used to playing ugly, they're going to win more games with those than they're going to lose. But I thought that the offense looked great. I mean, I thought the Raiders' defense looked pretty suspect. Najee had 106 rushing yards and a touchdown. Fields ran in 2 scores. He had over 200 total yards. He wasn't perfect, but he was good enough.
Yeah. So
and again, that's kind of the job of the Steelers quarterback, be good enough. And Fields has the ability that none of their previous quarterbacks in the last half decade have had to make plays.
20 years.
Not be Superman all the time. But hey, Justin, can you run in 2 scores for us? Yeah, I could do that. You couldn't ask that of Mason Rudolph. You couldn't ask that of Duck Hodges. That just wasn't happening with those guys.
He's literally our offensive identity, because I don't think we have a 100-yard game receiver this year. We just had
I think Pickens has gotten there.
Oh yeah, maybe, and like against the Falcons or something. But I mean, this is our first game with a 100-yard rusher, Najee Harris. That's like at least a top 5 game as a Steeler for sure. But honestly, man, like his ability to extend plays is the only reason we are 4-2 right now. I can 100% say that. Because 3rd and 13, when there's nobody open because they have Van Jefferson on a drag route and Pickens only runs a streak and he's getting double teamed, he just takes off for 18 yards and all of a sudden the drive keeps going. Like, those are plays that Russell Wilson can't make. There are days where I'm like, especially last week against the Cowboys, like, man, we need someone who can just get the ball to our playmakers, man. But
it's controlled dynamicism. He is dynamic, but the Steelers control it at a pretty good spot. Do I question what they can do against a Baltimore, a Kansas City, a Houston, even a Buffalo when it comes playoff time? Yeah, I do. But do I question if they're going to be there? No, I'm pretty confident Pittsburgh's going to be there, especially with the slow start Cincinnati got off to. How the Jets are looking right now, Miami with their injuries, the Chargers are just kind of another version of the Steelers, and the Steelers got the head-to-head win. I feel pretty good about Pittsburgh's chances to make the playoffs as things currently stand.
I mean, we needed that last week against the Cowboys. We really needed that game because everyone knows we have a top 5 hardest remaining schedule in the NFL. So, I mean, it's going to be brutal. If we can,
I just think those games are going to be gritty. And, I know that their schedule is tough, but I think, they play the Jets next Sunday. They could win there. They play the Giants. They could win that game. They play at Washington. I'm telling you, they could win that game. Host Baltimore. They play Baltimore tough every time. They play Cleveland twice. Those are winnable games. Cincinnati twice. All of a sudden, with Cincinnati's offensive line, that's not as scary as it once was. Philly and Kansas City. Kansas City, who knows what their offense will look like at the end of the year. And Philly, it's not like they're scaring anybody. Like, their schedule isn't as terrifying as it was when we looked at it before the season, with how bad Cleveland is and how sloppy Cincinnati has looked. You see what that Giants defensive line did to the Bengals on Sunday Night Football? What the hell do you think is going to happen when they play TJ Watt?
Yeah, that is true, man. And the Steelers, man, I don't know. I don't want to overhype them too much, but
No. I'm not, and I'm not sitting here telling you that they're going to win the Super Bowl. I don't think that's the case. But I would be surprised if they miss the playoffs.
I would too, man. But our offense is just they said we trade for a wide receiver and we're like guaranteed to get in. I don't know, because we're not really getting our playmakers the ball at all.
You just keep TJ Watt healthy and you'll get in.
Yeah, he's 30. I almost forgot how old he was. I'm like, damn, he just turned 30 years old this past week, man. He doesn't even have a playoff win. That's another conversation, though.
Yeah, for sure. But those are our thoughts on week 6 of the NFL season. Be sure to leave yours in the comment section. We appreciate you guys as we continue to grow out the channel here. We will catch you guys later this week for a week 7 preview video. Until then, peace out.
Yes, sir.